Thank you for listening to this Podcast One production. Available on Apple Podcasts and Podcast One.
Today's show is brought to you by Bombas Socks. Visit bombas.com/darkness and get 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/darkness for 20% off your first purchase. Bombas.com/darkness. You know, Tim, when I was in school, the cool thing was torn blue jeans, sleeveless denim jackets, white T-shirts, and bandanas. Well, at least that was my image of cool. I was kind of a Bruce Springsteen-y guy. And you were cool if you had it, and you weren't if you didn't. Now, it's Bombas socks that bring out all the envy on the schoolyard, which isn't really all that surprising. I mean, they are the most comfortable kids' socks ever. They're colorful, literally bursting with color. They even have a little colorful bee on them. And comfortable. Did I mention comfortable? So comfortable. Tim and I wear Bombas socks all the time. So when doing back-to-school shopping, I wanted my kids' feet to feel as elegant and perfectly tailored as our feet do. So we got them Bombas socks. They're affordable. They're comfortable. They're designed with several comfort innovations that help make them feel better than any other kid's socks ever made. So send your kids back to school with the socks that keep them comfy, colorful, and ready to take on the school year. And since Bombas donates a pair of socks for every pair purchased, you should get yourself some. I wear Bombas every day. As a matter of fact, I've got a full selection of their dress socks. I love the support. I love the feel. I love the cushioning of it. They keep my feet cool in the summer, warm in the winter. It's black magic, Tim. Or it's just really good engineering. It's definitely one of those two things. Visit bombas.com/darkness and you can get 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/darkness for 20% off your first purchase. Bombas.com/darkness.
Welcome into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness for a Sunday. I am Tim Dennis, in for Dave Schroeder, who has a day off. I'll tell you, folks, we have an exciting program today. I've been excited for this one for a while, and I'll tell you why in a second. First, let's get the ancillary announcements out of the way. Darkness Radio, Beyond the Darkness, has a brand new iPhone app. You've only been waiting since 1870 for this app to come out. It's finally come out. Just go to the App Store in your iPhone, type in Darkness Radio, and you'll see a little picture of Scully there. Just click on Scully there, and or get the little get symbol, and it's absolutely free. And everything that's anything Darkness Radio, whether it be Beyond the Darkness, True Crime Tuesday, or listening to Midnight in the Desert Live, is all right there, or the Midnight in the Desert archives, all right there on the app. You can even get Jeff Belanger's Legends podcast. You can get access to the Dark Zone, which Dave is on. There's so much more. Tom Bernard's The Family Podcast is there. Everything that you can imagine. You even have access to darknessradio.com and Darkness Events. It's all right there on the iPhone app. Go right now. Go get it if you have an iPhone. It'll make it so much easier to have access to everything. You're having issues getting us with the Podcast One app. It's okay. And shh, you didn't hear that from me. Go get the Darkness Radio app for iPhone. You're having issues getting True Crime Tuesday on the Patreon app. Go get the Darkness Radio app for iPhone. Just go do it. It's free, and it's so easy. It's all at one location. There's only one small glitch that we're working out right now. We're going to have a update for it. There's a little bug when you go in to listen to Jeff Belanger's Legends podcast. Yes, I'm blaming it on you, Jeff Belanger. It does shut down the app, but we're fixing that, and we'll have an update for that soon enough. But go get the app anyways. It's a great app, I'm telling you. I've actually been playing around with the app since the beta version, and I have a great time with it. I just go look at my bio and I go pick my own nose. But you don't want to hear about that. Those are details that are embarrassing. And, I don't know. That's just what I do. Speaking of events and darkness events and things you can look up on the Darkness Radio app, Michigan Paracon is this weekend. If you're not out having a great time with us, shame on you. But you should be coming out to Michigan Paracon. It is the biggest Paracon in the world, and everybody is out there. You can still come on out and have a good time with us. Look it up on darknessevents.com and check it out. Come see us out in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, if you're in the area. If not, you have other opportunities to see Dave and I this year. They do include Chicago Ghost Conference in October. Check that out at darknessevents.com. Of course, January 20th through the 24th, we'll be sailing the high seas with Chris Jericho and Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager Part 2, Second Wave. It's 98% sold out, folks. And you want to know why? Because Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, Mateen himself, is the guest host. You've got AEW as your wrestlers on the ship. They're live wrestling on the ship. You've got lots of rock bands on the ship. You've got, you got drinking, of course. You're drinking on the ship. And you've got podcasts on the ship. And you've got Dave and I as your paranormal guys there on the ship as well. And we'll be doing we'll be going through the Bermuda Triangle. We had some crazy experiences on the ship last time as we did a UFO summoning experiment. And we had crazy stuff happen last time when we were on the ship with Chris. So get your cabin right now. There's only a few remaining. Go to chrisjerichocruise.com. Join us in January as we sail from Miami to the Bahamas, 5-day cruise. And you can do that by going to darknessradio.com, clicking on the link there. We look forward to seeing you on the high seas for Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager Part 2, Second Wave. All right, now that I've got everything out of the way, now that everything is done, let's settle into today's program because I am excited. You know, folks, there is a huge announcement that A&E made not too long ago. In fact, it was this spring. And when everybody saw the announcement, they went, what? Because two words came up on the screen that made everybody go, first of all, that doesn't air on A&E. And second of all, how is that possible? And the words were ghost hunters. And everybody went, what is this? What? I thought that show was done. And it's not. As a matter of fact, Ghost Hunters is back on A&E. And then there was a press release that came out. And the press release came out, and the cast of Ghost Hunters was announced. And then a second, what? Came out from the collective ether of all paranormal fans. And there was Grant Wilson standing there, which everybody was excited because Grant hadn't been associated with the show for quite a while. And there was a brand new cast standing there, which got me excited because I love change. I love to see something brand new out of a established product. So today we have two of the brand new cast members of Ghost Hunters with us. And I'm excited to sit down and actually talk with both of our guests today. And let me introduce you to both of them. And we'll get to know both of these guys, and we've got them both on the line right now. One of them we've had on our show before and is a good friend of our show. Brandon Alvis is with us. And I should mention that Ghost Hunters is being put together and it is premiered already on August 21st, along with Psychic Kids. It's being put together in a block on A&E. Ghost Hunters airs at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central. Psychic Kids follows at 10 p.m. Eastern and 9 o'clock Central on Wednesdays. So that's when you can see it there. And Mustafa Mustafa, I messed it up already. Mustafa, say your last name.
It's fine.
It's
Mustafa Gatollari.
Gatollari. See, I don't want to mess up your last name, and I went ahead and I already did it subconsciously. Gatollari.
It's all love.
So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. And much love to both of you for being on today. I am excited about this show, and a lot of people have already seen this show, but I wanted to bring you on and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the new Ghost Hunters because people are excited about this show. There's been a lot of buzz about it. Tell me a little bit, first of all, before we get into how you both got into the paranormal and what inspired you about the paranormal. Tell me a little bit about how. And I want to start with Mustafa first because I find Mustafa's story very interesting. Tell me about how this has changed your life. Oh, Mustafa, are you there?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you. Yep.
All right, way better. Okay, yeah. So, no, it's interesting. It's something I've been doing since I was about 18 years old, and much to the chagrin of personal relationships and my friends who wanted to go hang out on the weekends or do stuff, I would be embroiled in the world of paranormal investigating. And that was a huge part of my life for so long. And then, I get an email one day from one of my best friends since middle school. And he's like, hey, someone's looking for paranormal investigators. So I didn't know it was for ghost hunters. It was just a paranormal investigating show. So I said, okay, let me just, apply. And I sent in and, a few audition tapes back and forth. And they didn't even tell us until we were well into past the audition process, even that it was for ghost hunters. And then they wanted to fly me out to Los Angeles and screen test for it. After, picking myself and scraping myself up off the ceiling, I went out over there and, just applied everything I had learned and all of my enthusiasm and excitement for it. And I just said, okay, let me just apply this and show them, what my enthusiasm for the paranormal is, what my theories are, what I've experienced and what I want to experience with the show. And then now I'm on it and I'm with the best damn group of paranormal investigators ever. I mean, I never worked with Brandon before. We did a screen test together. We investigated together and it was absolutely fantastic. We hit it off immediately. And for me, it's changed my life in that, holy hell, I get to do what I love every single day. All of my interviews are about this. My questions are about this. And what's really crazy is that now that people see oh my God, you're a ghost hunter, it validates all those. And I'm pretty sure there's a few, exes of mine who are just shaking their heads and whatever. And I hope so. Screw them. But, and props to my wife for standing behind me, It's one of the first things I told her when we started dating. I'm like, hey, I'm into this. But now it's literally as corny and cheesy as it sounds, man. It's like a Disney movie. It's a mother flipping dream come true, dude. I'm over the moon. I'm still not going to come down from it, and I don't want to ever come down from it. It's wonderful.
Well, let me ask you this, Mustafa. How has it changed your personal relationships? Because mind you, this is real early in your history with ghost hunters. Has it changed personal relationships for you already?
Ooh, yeah, it's interesting. I think it's for my friends and people who know me, it's great because you get to see, and it's a hackneyed show business thing. It's because you see who your real friends are, but the people who know I'm passionate about it and are genuinely happy for me, we've become even closer, and it's great. And then people who you kind of find out maybe they were only your friend because I'm a enthusiastic, bubbly guy. They just want to keep me around just to for a good time, but they don't really want you to, they don't really think, I don't think human beings really think that cool stuff can happen to them. And then they gotta get not jealous in a way, because jealousy can be good to an extent, because that can propel you to do good things, but it's envy in a way where it's they don't even talk to me. So it's people I shouldn't have been talking to anyway. They just kind of weed themselves out. And then now I get to hang out with really cool people, and then I make new friends. Brandon and I, we're chilling in my place in Jersey right now before we go out to another investigation. So for me, it's only been good things. Yes, it's kind of sad that wow, I thought this person or these people were my friends for this longest time, but it turns out they're kind of a bunch of D-bags. But now it's it's great because I have people who I share the same interests and passions with, and we're all just interested in the same exact thing, and that's just going into an investigation or a situation and doing whatever the heck we can to make it work and find answers.
Right on. Brandon, now you've been in the paranormal field for a long, long time, and I know that, it's one of these things where there's a lot of us who have, I guess, what's a good way to put this? We've been on the convention circuit. We've been, we've been doing different projects. We've been on different radio shows. And I guess you could say it's been a long time coming, that you be featured on TV. I don't know if you feel that way, but tell me what it's like for you to now be involved with a franchise like Ghost Hunters.
Well, first off, Tim, man, thanks for having me back on the show. It's it's always a pleasure speaking with you and Dave. So it's really, really great to be back. But I grew up watching Grant Wilson conduct research and watching Ghost Hunters on television. So when this opportunity arose, I freaked out in a sense because I modeled a lot of what I do after Grant Wilson and the protocol of Ghost Hunters. So being able to be part of this and work with Grant Wilson and Mustafa and the rest of the team is, a dream come true, man. It's really unbelievable.
Tell me a little bit about, and let's get into individual backgrounds and what got you interested in the paranormal. Let's start with Mustafa. What was that first paranormal experience that you had that actually clicked on the light and made you want to dig further into a paranormal world?
Ooh, man. I mean, I never get tired of telling this story. It all started with the house I grew up in, immigrant family. Everybody has this idea of having the nice house with the nice big backyard. And my father, busted his ass and he was working really hard and we got us a place in New City, New York. It's near like Westchester County over there. And first night we move into the house, I'm a young kid. I'm with my older brother. We're in our new bedroom, mattresses on the floor, and we're all giddy and we're excited. And, we're going back and forth about like, how we're going to decorate our room and what we're going to do in the home and all that stuff. And all of a sudden we start hearing noises coming from the kitchen downstairs. My older brother and I, we look at each other and we're like, well, what's that? So when you're a kid, it's like, it's a nice little adventure. I'm going to go walk around. We go down the stairs, and as we're going down the stairs, the noise keeps getting louder and louder. And we're like, okay, it's like you're scared, but when you're a kid, it's like you're too dumb to be afraid or something. It's just like, whatever, I'm going to go and explore, Mm-hmm. So we go and we walk into the kitchen, and all of the cabinets in the kitchen are opening and closing by themselves. And my brother and I look at each other and we're like, this is awesome. And then our mother comes downstairs into the kitchen. She looks at us. She looks at the cabinets and drawers. She sees it. She's like, all right, kids, come upstairs. And that was like my first experience with the paranormal. And, just like any horror movie, the more and more activity was occurring throughout the house. My older brother, like in the second week there, he's in the garage. He comes running in and he's like, my mom's like, what's the matter? And he's like, no, nothing. I just made a new friend. And she's like, what do you mean? And he goes, yeah, there's this nice man in the garage and he had shoelaces around his neck. And we're like, what? And there was a lot of things that happened in the home. And, like, again, I said, like the whole horror movie example, it's like your family went into some financial hardship and like all the like bad things were happening. And my family, they're immigrants from Eastern Europe, highly superstitious. And they immediately thought, and we're Muslim, grew up Muslim, and they thought, it's a jinn. Albanians say jinda, you know what I mean? It's a jinn. Mm-hmm. There's some evil spirit in the house, and this is what's causing all of our problems and stuff like that. And I just became so sick and tired, even from a very young age, of like my parents blaming all of their freaking problems on a jinn. It's like, and my entire goal once I was like, a teenager, I was like 16, 17. I was like, I'm going to disprove the existence of ghosts and jinn so my parents can shut up about this once and for all, right? So I started delving into the history of the house that we grew up in. Turns out that it was vacant for a very long time, and it belonged to this insurance like kingpin in the area who ended up going missing. And it turned out he didn't go missing. He died in the house. And then I would go back to the house, the homeowners there were nice enough to like let me conduct investigations, and it brought a sense of peace to not just me, but my family as well. Because I do believe that I established contact with somebody who was there, and I helped to open their minds to be like, listen, it's not a jinn. It's just somebody who was there who had a rough go. you know, who was something had happened. He became financially destitute, and they had a rough go. So that's when I became really interested. That's when I was hooked. It's just showing, okay, if there is paranormal activity in a place, just because a ghost might be there doesn't mean that it's bad.
Right.
It's just a human being who's haunted by something and can't let go, and they're tied to a place, whether it was, you know, a very hard life, something traumatic, or more often than not, it's love. Love's what ties somebody to a place. Again, it sounds cheesy, but I swear, man, no matter how much money you have, when you are having a rough time in love or relationships, that is the one thing that will always either drag you down or lift you up. So for me, it was just all about proving that and exploring that further and further and further. That's what I love about this team. That's what we do every investigation.
You know, this makes me really curious, Mustafa. You mentioned something about your parents thinking that potentially it was a jinn, and it brings me to a story that a archaeologist friend of mine, John Ward, was talking about. He worked. He and his wife were working on a dig in El Sicila in Egypt, and there were a lot of times where their crew would shut down because they thought they would sight a jinn, and it would happen for days on end. The crew would not go back to work because until they thought the jinn had left the area, or something had been done to try to cleanse the area or get rid of the jinn.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder too, as I hear you tell the story, it seems like this ghost was around for quite a while, and I'm wondering how, one, did this situation resolve itself, or did you take action to resolve it, or what happened to get the ghost out of there? Is it still there? And
I mean, yeah.
And two, how did your parents come to the resolution that they either had to live with it or get rid of it?
Well, what was really interesting, it's funny that you mentioned Egypt. My wife's actually over there right now with her kids. She's originally from Alexandria, and her family, when they found out I was on the show, they were like, oh no, and they're saying all sorts of prayers for me, and they want to give me all sorts of like evil eye trinkets and stuff to like protect me. But for our home, it went on for years. I mean, it was a huge house, like, you know, 8 bedrooms, 4 full bathrooms. I mean, it was ginormous, 3 floors. And when it started a lot of the activity started to die down once my uncle and his family moved into the house with us. So there was just a lot of people in there in the home at that point. And I think, like, in a lot of cases when people say, whenever there's renovations, whenever there's like new people moving in, I just think the entities or entity that are there present in an area are just curious. They want to know, like, you know, just like you would be in your house and somebody comes in and starts moving in and living with you, you want to know, okay, like, who are these people? My parents, the resolution really came, and this is before I got on the show. I would say like 95%, maybe more of the investigations I did were all helping, you know, family members and friends of family and homeowners with like the fact that they can't put all their problems or whatever they have on this paranormal activity in their home. So the resolution really came when my father just like buckled down, started making smart decisions for himself and his family, and just basically became more responsible. You got to get busy. It's, again, I know I'm gonna have all these hackneyed phrases, but like, you really do have to get busy living, man. Life is for the living. Go after your dreams, do what you need to do to be happy, fight tooth and nail every single day to make you and your loved ones happy. And I promise you, if there's an entity there, most people are good. Most people want to see other people succeed, especially if they failed, because they want to be content with the fact that somebody did it. Somebody actually was able to have a great life. So if you're able to do that and like kill yourself metaphorically to have a great life, that'll bring peace to you, and that'll bring peace to the entity.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Brandon, let me switch gears here and let me ask you, I know we might have covered it on previous shows, but remind people what it was that got you into the paranormal.
Well, yeah, you know, my story is a bit different than Mustafa's. I never really started, you know, in the field because of a personal experience per se. I got involved because in 1995, I lost my oldest brother to cancer. And in 2004, I lost another brother to suicide. So that kind of sent me on my journey into the unexplained, if you will. And before I ever stepped foot in the field and conducted any kind of field research, I read as many books as I possibly could. And that's why I kind of always refer to myself as a ghost geek, because I've been such a geek about the whole thing, looking back over 100 years worth of research and trying to figure out how I wanted to conduct my investigations and how I was going to remain practical and grounded in scientific principle. And I've been lucky enough since 2006 to reach out to various professionals from technical industries and ask for their assistance in remaining grounded. And I've worked with a man named Dr. Harry Clore for a number of years. He's the only person in history to receive 2 PhDs simultaneously in any discipline. I've worked with engineers from NASA. I've worked with medical doctors. I've been very lucky to have great mentors that have really helped me remain grounded in my research. And I think that having those 13 years of experience and knowing how to use the technology and collecting data that's going to help these clients is really, it brings a really nice edge to ghost hunters, and I'm really glad to be part of it.
Right on. Speaking of television and ghost hunters, folks, Pluto TV, it's one of those leading free streaming television service. Not only is it one of them, it is the leading free streaming television service, and you can see a lot of different television shows there on Pluto TV. You can watch over 100 TV channels and thousands of movies on demand, all completely free. Pluto TV never asks you for a credit card, and you don't even need to sign up to watch free. Pluto TV is the easy and completely legal way to watch your favorite TV shows and hit movies for free. What are you waiting for? Never pay for TV again by downloading Pluto TV. You can download Pluto TV for free on all your favorite devices today, including your phone, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Apple TV, smart TVs, PlayStation, and anywhere that you stream TV. Pluto TV is a leading free streaming television service. Watch over 100 TV channels and thousands of movies on demand, all for free. No credit card is needed, no sign up. Pluto TV is the easy and completely legal way to watch your favorite TV shows and hit movies. What are you waiting for, folks? Never pay for TV again. Download Pluto TV, all for free on your favorite devices today. Welcome back to the best in paranormal talk radio, Beyond the Darkness. I'm Tim Dennison for Dave Schrader. Brandon, Alvis, and Mustafa. I'm going to try it again. Is it Gatollari? Am I close?
Oh yeah, you got it.
Did I get it? Are you sure, or are you just humoring me?
No, I would tell you. Trust me.
Okay, all right.
I tell people.
All right, from the brand new relaunch of Ghost Hunters. Can we call it a relaunch, or do you guys consider this a brand new iteration of Ghost Hunters? What do you guys consider? Mustafa, do you consider this a different program from the original Ghost Hunters, or do you consider this a relaunch of Ghost Hunters?
Well, we definitely are changing things up a bit. I mean, if you see the show, you see the new episodes, the structure's definitely changed. We've introduced a whole bunch of new tech, courtesy of Brandon. He's a maven with that. Oh my God, he's so sexy when he works with his tech and everything. I love seeing it. It's amazing. Sorry, I lost myself there.
No, that's all right. But, hey, I'm a tech guy too. I'm a little turned on. I'm not gonna lie.
It's amazing. It's Grant's there, and the entire thesis, if you will, of Ghost Hunters is still very much there. We're always going into an investigation or a case completely grounded, and we try to find practical explanations for everything. And the other thing that's really great is we're always going in there to help a client. So the heart of Ghost Hunters is very, very, very much intact. It is alive and well, and it is beating. But there's a lot of new stuff. I mean, we have a new cast. Some of us have different approaches to investigating. And like I said, the show is going to feel different. For me, I'm really excited about the new show. We've seen some cuts of some episodes, and I already, I'm partial because I'm a part of the new crew. I mean, sure. I love what they're doing with it, and I really like the new format over the previous show. But again, if you're a fan of Ghost Hunters, you're going to feel very, very much at home, and I know you're going to love it.
Brandon, do you consider this a relaunch or a reiteration, or do you consider this a continuation of the old show?
It's definitely fresh, and just as Mustafa said, to piggyback on that a bit, you very much have the heart of Ghost Hunters involved. Mm-hmm. You have Grant Wilson, who is one of the most beloved paranormal investigators of all time. But one thing that we're doing, and one thing that's a bit different, is it's a far more emotional version of Ghost Hunters than the original. These clients that we're there to help, every time we do an episode, we are literally going because of a call for help. and us going there and making sure that these issues are resolved with these people that are a lot of times terrified to be in their own home. So I would say it's a lot more emotional. It's pretty intense at times, but, definitely the heart of Ghost Hunters is there. But at the same time, it's far more emotional and a lot deeper, I would say.
Do you want to know, and this is just my own opinion, don't take this, and this is not a shot at the old guys, because I love the old guys. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm friends with the old guys. But the one thing I saw, even in the trailers and in other stuff that I've seen, do you want to know what I've seen that kind of warms my heart a little bit? Is I saw a little emotion. I saw a little, the little wink at the camera, and this is my favorite part, and there's a little more warmth to this show that you guys are doing. It's just there's more of an emotional connection, I think. I think in the old, and you don't have to say anything. You guys don't say anything. You don't have to comment one way or another. This is just my opinion. I think in the old version of Ghost Hunters, I think that it was just in the quest to be scientific and the quest to prove that there was hard evidence. I think maybe there was a little bit of a loss of emotion there, and the fact that you are going out to help people, and it is.
I'm glad that
yeah, it is a human experience, and you are humans helping humans, and in there has to be emotion, and knowing Grant like I do, he is a very emotional, warm person, and I'm glad that's coming through. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
No, I'm happy that comes through. Seriously, we pride ourselves on that. Again, at the end of the day, it's the client first, and if that comes through, we do. How shows are shot and the way that they're edited, and a lot of stuff can get lost. I mean, it's a 43-minute episode, but we're there and putting in a ton of work, and we do most of our work during the day. So, we talk with the clients and we interface with them. So if that shines through, then good, man. I can rest my head well at night.
There's something interesting that Grant says in the trailer, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this, because you've said a little something, both of you, towards it, or a little something different from it while we've been talking. And the thing he says in the trailer is that he's not there to find ghosts. He's there to solve a problem or figure out what's wrong around the house, or it's something in that manner, that he's not necessarily there to find a ghost, but he's there to find the issue that's there within the house, which was a lot of the original concept of Ghost Hunters. It's not necessarily there to find a spirit. It's there to maybe find out what's wrong in the home. Now, I can understand that part of it. I get that part of it, being a skeptic. But I also know Grant. I know Grant like a lot of other people don't know Grant. And I've investigated with him as well. So maybe, and I want to start with Brandon on this one. When you hear that line in the trailer, do you think that, and I'll ask you to be candid here, do you think that line is genuine from the man when you investigate with him?
It is, yes, to an extent. Grant Wilson is, again, one of the most brilliant paranormal investigators ever, and I'm just honored to be working with the guy. But, Grant is very much about going in and trying to solve the issue associated with what's going on with the client and with the household or the building, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I believe he does say that, I'm not looking for ghosts, I'm looking for the truth. And that's, first and foremost, very important to our protocol and our journey with this version of Ghost Hunters, is going in, making sure that the client is taken care of. And if there happens to be an entity in the home, that we try and help resolve things with the entity as much as possible too. So, a lot of people look at these things as a negative way. There's a lot of shows out there, that are on now that really portray the paranormal in a dark light and everything's malevolent and evil. We want to make sure that people understand that more times than not, that there's very much a positive or a good, energy associated with entities and hauntings. So, but yeah, I do think that Grant's statement, very much resonates with all of us. When we go to a place, first and foremost, we start on Earth. Just as Grant always says, we start on Earth, figure out what's naturally taking place, what's going on, and then we move up to see if there's something supernatural involved. And I think that very much is what he's meaning by saying we're not looking for ghosts, we're looking for the truth.
Well, I get that part, but I guess I'm trying to think of a good example. The only example I can come up with, and I can only tell a very personal story. And I'll try to tell the condensed version, the Reader's Digest version of it. It was before one of the events that we did events with the Ghost Hunters guys way back, for years, starting back in 2006. We were at the Stanley Hotel, and we were doing. It was the night before everybody got into town, and we got permission to go into the carriage house at the Stanley. And there was just a whole bunch of us. It was John Zaffis and Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Grant and a bunch of friends. It was just a bunch of friends. And we were just in there just kind of knocking around. We brought video cameras and K2 meters, and we had, the sticks and stones of the basic stuff of investigating. Nothing real fancy, nothing like you would have now. And I think Chris Fleming was in there, if I remember right. There was just a bunch of different people. And everybody was trying everything. You had sensitives in there that were doing their thing, and you had skeptics in there that were doing their thing, and everybody was kind of spread out to a different part of the carriage house. And I intently watched Grant because I was curious. I just had a feeling about him. It was a different feeling than, I thought maybe he was a little bit different investigating in person in an investigation than he was on television. Sure, he was looking out, and here's the funny part about this carriage house investigation. I'll tell you guys this. So we're sitting there, and there are quite a few people who are sensitive who were going, and I won't name who it was, but they were really going off the rails. There were Indian spirits in there, and there was this and that and the other, and things that you really couldn't prove, right? And we were getting some communication on K2 meters, and there was some communication going on things, but it was pretty dead in the carriage house that night. When all of a sudden we hear this wham, right? And then things kind of shifting, because there's boards in there, and there's mattresses and stuff like that. And you just hear, all of a sudden, you hear a couple of pieces of timber shift. And everybody kind of jumps a little bit. And we're kind of looking, like, well, what the heck was that? And while people are thinking, a couple of people in the corner who were more on the spiritual side, who thought they were in connection with something, well, yes, it's a spirit trying to connect with us. At this point, I think it was Grant pulled out his flashlight and pointed over to the timber. And sure enough, there was a raccoon. I don't know why I find that so funny. But, it was just, but at that point, as I was watching Grant investigate, he didn't jump to any conclusions. But he was looking at something with more than just his eye, if you know what I'm talking about. And I know you guys have investigated with him. So he's looking at physical stuff, and maybe I'm assuming you guys are being really quiet right now. He's looking at stuff with his physical eye, and he's looking at physical factors. But I think there's more to him than that, and a lot of people haven't said anything. It's just me, though. Maybe I'm crazy.
No, I was quiet because I muted my microphone.
Oh, okay.
But no, that is very much. I mean, Grant is constantly investigating with. He's considering all factors. The first thing he wants to do is find an explanation for something that is real. He wants to find a practical explanation. I mean, we have one episode one case that we recently performed, and in one place we investigated where it was, there's a lot of activity that could have been defined as paranormal. And we went in, and a lot of it was kind of unnerving. It was a bit freaky, to some people, especially people working in this place all day. And, Grant went in, and he had a hypothesis about a lot of the different types of phenomenon that people were experiencing. And sure enough, I mean, his hypothesis was right. We were able to, everything that we investigated, we brought experts in. We did sweeps of the place. We found a logical explanation for why people were feeling senses of dread or feeling like there was someone in a room with them or anything like that. And it was great. That's how he does things. He's constantly always trying to find something. But on the flip side, and this is something I think will shine through a lot in the new show too, is that when we do encounter something that cannot be explained, he is very, very, very giddy. He gets very excited, just like all of us do. And then he cannot wait. And it doesn't just stop at the activity with him. He doesn't just tap out when it's like, oh my God, what was that? Oh, that was crazy. Oh my God, let's get out of here. No, it's just like, okay, let's find it. I mean, there's one case we did where him and I both hear something or we thought we see something. We book it straight towards it. We run because we want to find out what that was. And he's constantly going over with us, going the evidence review with us. He's looking at the footage. He's looking at the stuff that we capture. And when he can't, he's equally excited when he can debunk something as when he finds something that could be paranormal. So, I think, it's a pretty accurate representation of him, that you just gave. He's always been like that. And the word that I was trying to come up with that I couldn't come up with, and I did while you were saying that, Mustafa, is hyper-perceptive. When it comes to the supernatural and paranormal, he's hyper perceptive. Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I don't know where that comes from. It's almost like a gift, He can separate very quickly what could potentially be supernatural from what is physical. And it's almost uncanny that he knows right now. Before everybody else. And that group that was in that carriage house that night was a pretty impressive group with hundreds of years of experience in investigating. And, before some of these probably more experienced investigators than him, could figure out what was going on. And all these different people had all these different theories, and people were trying to talk to different spirits that I was convinced weren't there, just a gut feeling. He just took the flashlight, pointed it right over, and there's a raccoon. He just knew. And it was just like, wow, and it was just like, he was right on top of it. And the fact that he knew it that quick, I just went, okay, huh. I was that impressed. I think it's also a lot of like presence of mind. You know what I mean? Like when you're, I remember like I would be like playing basketball with some of my friends like as a kid, right? And I would play a lot of basketball. But then there's that kid who's playing, and every single dribble, every single pass, every single second of that game, there's no autopilot. It's being present in that moment and trying to make the most of it, right? Mm-hmm. With Grant, he is constantly present. I do think he does have some type of gift. But you also understand, like, he synthesizes all of his life experiences in the moment, and he does that on the fly. So his presence of mind during an investigation, we could be on a location for, 16, 18 hours straight. He's just as strong as he is in the first hour as he is in the 18th hour. And that's because he, like, commits himself to that presence of mind. And he's not going in there to have an experience. He's going in there to not hunt ghosts, but hunt the evidence. Right. It's like watching Jordan play basketball. It really is. If you ever get the privilege of watching him on an investigation, he 100%. Yeah, he's very, very much a treat to watch. That's for sure. Let's do this, guys. Let's take a break right here. When we come back, let's talk about some of your castmates and their roles, and get a little introduction from you guys as to who they are and what they do and their roles in the show. Perfect. Our guests this show in this edition of Beyond the Darkness are Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari. See, I can do it, Mustafa. I can do it. You got it. They're our guests here on Beyond the Darkness. We're talking about the brand new show. We'll consider it brand new, Ghost Hunters, on A&E, and we'll talk more about the show and about the brand new castmates next here on Beyond the Darkness.
I love TV, Tim. Oh, I love TV. I grew up in that generation when You know, babysitter, schmabysitter. I was just plucked down in front of the TV, allowed to watch Three Stooges, The Monkees, all of the good fanfare on TV. And growing up, Tim, I've still loved TV, and especially good TV.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a chance to see a preview of Carnival Row. It's a 1-hour fantasy drama, and it stars Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne. The series is set in Victorian fantasy world filled with mythological immigrant creatures whose exotic homelands have been invaded by the empires of man. They struggle to coexist with humans, forbidden to live, love, or fly with freedom. Orlando Bloom plays Rycroft Philostrate, also known as Philo, a police inspector investigating a string of gruesome murders threatening the uneasy peace of the Row. And Cara Delevingne plays Vignette Stonemoss, a fairy refugee who flees her war-torn homeland to come to the Burg, where she must contend not only with rampant human prejudice against her kind, but with the secrets that have followed her to this new land. But even in darkness, hope lives on, as this human detective and fairy rekindle their dangerous affair despite an increasingly intolerant society. Come together on August 30th to watch Carnival Row, only on Amazon Prime Video, this Labor Day weekend. Don't miss it. Folks, there's been a lot of cool programming that's come out over the few years that have set up a great premise and then failed to deliver. I can tell you after watching the first episode of Carnival Row, they've got it right. This is exactly what our audience loves. Fantasy, true crime, fiction, it's all put together into one beautifully crafted, elegantly shot, and wonderfully acted series. Carnival Row. Check it out August 30th on Amazon Prime Video this Labor Day weekend.
60 seconds. That's exactly how long this commercial lasts. You know what else you can do in about a minute? Get an offer for your car with TrueCar. That's right. In the amount of time it takes to floss your teeth, pet your dog, do a few sit-ups, or just listen to my voice, you can get a true cash offer. Best of all, you can do it from your smartphone or home. Just go to TrueCar and simply enter your license plate number and watch how your car's details pop up. Then answer a few questions and you'll get an accurate True Cash offer from a local TrueCar certified dealer. It's that easy. After that, you can bring your car in and they'll check it out with you together. You can ask questions and get the answers you need so there's no surprises. Then simply leave with your check or trade in your car for a new ride. So when you're ready to experience a better way to sell or trade in your car, check out TrueCar today.
Want a podcast? Got a podcast? Then check out Launchpad DM. Powered by Podcast One. Launchpad DM is a totally free platform and service for anyone who wants to podcast, offering unlimited hosting and access to a dashboard with all of your show's analytics. You own and control everything, including subscribers. And it's a great discovery tool to help people find your podcast. You may even get invited to join the official Podcast One roster with even more perks, like access to producers, marketers, sales teams, and more. Sign up today at launchpaddm.com.
Beyond the darkness.
Welcome back to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. I'm Tim Dennis, in for Dave Schrader. He has the day off, which I'm glad. I shouldn't say that, but I'm glad he has the day off because I have two of the brand new members of Ghost Hunters on A&E, the brand new iteration of Ghost Hunters. I've got Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari. Did I get it right, Mustafa, by the way?
Oh, you crushed it. You nailed it.
Thank you. I have them on the show with me today, and we're talking about the brand new, I'm just going to say brand new iteration rather than try and dance my way around it here, of Ghost Hunters on A&E. If you're looking for it on your schedules, Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, followed by Psychic Kids at 10 p.m. Eastern and 9 p.m. Central on Wednesday nights on A&E. That's when you want to tune into it. Now, guys, you have an interesting team around you, one of which has been on TV before. That's Kristen Luman. But you're surrounded by Daryl Marston, Brian Murray, and is it Rochelle Stratton, right?
Yep.
Okay. So
that's her. Yep.
So, Brandon, tell us a little bit about, first of all, I'm interested on how Kristen Lumen came back around. I know she's a psychologist and hypnotherapist, right?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, man. So she came back on board. I think she was actually on a few episodes of Ghost Hunters back, 3 or 4 seasons before the end, I believe. I can't remember exactly what season she was involved in, but she worked with, with Ghost Hunters in the past. So bringing her back was a natural fit. And she brings a really great edge to the team when it comes to psychological evaluation and understanding the psyche of the client that we're dealing with. So she's a really great asset to the team, and it's really great having her on.
How does Daryl fit into the team? And Mustafa, why don't you answer that one? How does Daryl fit into the team?
Yeah, Daryl brings like a wealth of real world knowledge. He's super level headed. He helps to keep people on task. He has a lot of like contracting and construction experience. So he really is interested with like the layouts of the buildings that we investigate. And so he has a lot of experience in that, and his paranormal investigations in the past are really tied to that. So he just brings that really great practical mindset into the investigations, and he's good at doling out, different tasks for us. He's like, okay, you guys maybe want to try this. So he always has a really fresh perspective. Some paranormal investigators that I've met up with in the past and worked with, they're very, very interested in the fantastical, but Daryl is very much in there to be like, okay, let's try to ground this in reality. And he's a great team leader, man.
So he's really, as far as what's the words I'm looking for here? So you go into an old building, and if you hear something a little more creaky, if you have a little bit more EMF leaking from the walls, per se, he can attest to the fact that, hey, you know what, this building isn't structurally sound. Maybe we're looking at something more in that vein rather than an actual haunting.
Yeah, not just that. It's just like he can really speak the language whenever we're getting professionals to come in and investigate places. So he'll talk to them. He'll be the point person to them. And it's just so much. It's better when you have someone who knows exactly what they're doing and understands the building. You can speak that language to other contracting and construction professionals. Like, boom, it saves us so much time, and we can just get right to the nitty gritty. And it's awesome having them on the team.
Right on. Brandon, tell me a little bit about Brian Murray and how he fits in the team.
Brian Murray's awesome, man. He's part of what we call our adventure team. Him and Rochelle are the adventure team and what they've been quoted as being. But Brian is a former Marine, man. I mean, he served in Iraq, and he's a guy that's just willing to do whatever it takes to make sure the investigation goes properly. A lot of times there's areas that not every team member wants to go in and visit. There's lots of spiders. It's a really dirty area. The guy's more than willing to go in and do what he needs to do to make sure we collect the proper data. But Brian Murray's a great asset. Again, I mean, we have such a well-rounded team. It's really unbelievable working with all these individuals as one unit and having a really great understanding of what our goal is and how we maintain the protocol. But yeah, Brian Murray's former experience as being a Marine is unbelievable and such a great asset.
Mustafa, tell me a little bit about Rochelle Stratton and what she brings to the team.
Well, she's smart as a whip, man. I mean, Rochelle is incredible. She's so perspective. There have been so many times where we're setting up tech, in a building, and she'll be like, hey, maybe this is a good angle or vantage point for here. Or if we're having difficulty putting a camera somewhere, she comes up with a great idea of we have these body cams, right? So we're trying to get a good vantage point in this home, and the angles are all weird, and Brandon and I are scratching our heads, and she's like, well, these things have magnetic clasps on them, right? We said, yeah, and she picks out this one brass piece on a door hinge. She goes, go put it there. And it's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And when she's good at synthesizing information from night 1 to night 2 in the investigation, and she comes up with a lot of interesting theories that we can also use as to who could possibly be there. So that combined with the research that, I do along with the rest of the team does, she's able to piece things together really well. She's also got a good knack for just when we are investigations for pointing out, she goes, there's something about this room, you know what I mean? Something about this room. And lo and behold, we'll go in there and, activity will be there. She's great. She's also super funny, really hilarious and charming. And she's just great for morale on the team too. So she's a total package, man. She's really great. Love working with her.
I'm going to save the best for last. I know we talked a little bit about him in the last segment, but I want you to individually speak, and I want to start with Brandon, about what Grant brings to the team as a leader, because in the past, everybody has, and I think Grant's been pigeonholed a little bit too much as kind of the second banana. He got pigeonholed as Jason Hawes's second in command, as kind of the sidekick, if you will. Now he's the team leader. Tell me a little bit, Brandon, about what Grant brings as a leader and what we can look forward to seeing in a change in Grant as the leader of this iteration of Ghost Hunters.
Just to go back to what we talked about a second ago, it's, having Grant lead this team is like watching Michael Jordan play basketball, just as we mentioned earlier. But the number one thing that sticks out to me about Grant leading this team and making sure that everything's, done properly is that there's so much heart behind it. There's so much understanding of what's at stake and understanding what the client's needs are that it just elevates what we're doing to a whole nother level. It's not just going into a place to find, evidence and go, find this, raw data that says that there's a life after death or that ghosts exist. It's the fact that Grant's passion and his heart and his understanding of the paranormal all comes together and really, rounds out what we're doing and brings that emotion that we talked about earlier. So, Grant Wilson is the perfect person to lead a team. He's the perfect person to push this field forward. He's the guy that should be looked at and modeled after when it comes to how you should conduct a paranormal investigation and how you should look at the paranormal and what it takes to, really be taken seriously by people.
Mustafa, let me throw that same question to you. Tell me a little bit about what you think Grant brings as a leader to this iteration of Ghost Hunters.
Well, when I first started conducting paranormal investigations, I modeled myself after Grant. I saw him on TV, and he was someone who I saw was not just level-headed, but very genuine. He was always about let's establish a connection with the client, and if there's an entity here, establishing a connection with that entity. And that's what I'm all about. That's what interests me the most, are just relationships. And when you have someone who's so genuine and who fights to care so much, and who just by default cares so much, it's really inspirational. And that was the biggest thing with him when, we came together as a team. He spoke to all of us as a group. He spoke to all of us individually. He told us like, this is what we're going for. And you could see that more than anything, he just cares, not about being on TV, not about being considered, the man or anything like that. Grant is very, very much just concerned with doing something, running with people in a positive way and the entities in a positive way. And what I mean, running that metaphorical, being able to get something done. That's good. Life's short. Why aren't you going to do work that's meaningful and positive? And that's what I love about him. It's great. It's great hanging out with him. It's somebody I looked up to and I based how I, conduct my investigations on, and to be with him to do that and have him as a leader, it's amazing, man.
Right. And I guess even to speak to that too, even the press surrounding the show and even the social media interaction. And again, you guys don't have to speak to this, but this is just my observation. There's also the Ghost Nation program that's out there. Jason and Steve and Tango are coming out with their iteration of their show that they're coming out with. And everything's been friendly so far as social media goes. Grant has acknowledged them and said, hey, you know what? They have their show over there. Ghost Hunters is over here. And everything's fine. And in fact, he's promoted their show. Everything's good. And, no shots fired anywhere. They do their thing. We do our thing. Everything's positive, and there's room for everybody.
There's no need for there to be shots fired, just because, it's great. If you're a fan of the paranormal, you have two new paranormal shows on TV. I eat it up. I love it. And, when you have a bunch of different people approaching this field and further and advancing this field in different ways, that's a big win for everybody all around, man. We're all on the same team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you both this, and I want to start with Brandon this time. In the short time that you've worked with Grant, because obviously you have quite a few episodes filmed now, give me one thing you've learned from Grant as the leader of this team.
Man, that's a tough question. Yeah, I've learned so much from him at this point. But, I think the number one thing that I've learned so much is going in with an open mind, but an open heart. And that's been one thing that in all my years of investigation, I've always came at everything from such a scientific basis, going in and trying to just collect the data and just to observe and report, from a situation of that, like that. But going in and having a deeper understanding of, kind of what's at stake and these calls for help and these families and these people that are so terrified to be in their own homes or work in their places of employment. I think, really having an understanding of taking that into account, going in and making sure that we resolve these issues and these anxieties that people have, I would have to say that's the number one thing that sticks out to me is going in with an open mind and an open heart and understanding exactly what this type of phenomena is.
Mustafa, in the short time you've worked with Grant, what's one thing that you've learned from him that's really stuck with you?
Aside from the fact that he doesn't have an appreciation for Jack in the Box breakfast sandwiches, that's the only thing I disagree with him on.
Wait a minute. And have you ever looked inside a Jack in the Box taco? You cannot eat that once you've looked in it, my friend. You can't.
Let me tell you something. Jack in the Box tacos are the best tacos in the world. I have had Michelin star tacos. I will gladly trade them for Jack in the Box tacos, and I dip them in ranch, and that's something I learned from Rochelle. Okay. So and Brandon, they're both big fans of that. They're incredible. I'll die on this hill. We can talk about this for hours. But the biggest thing that I learned from Grant is just the line of questioning when you do establish contact with an entity. I mean, people are going to be really, really excited about some of the phenomena we've experienced in these few cases that we've investigated. And it's that line of questioning, pushing it further. Always ask, in improv, they say yes and, yes and. With us, it's like, okay, but what does it mean? But what does it mean? Okay, what does this phenomenon mean? Who is here? Why is this happening? How can we bring relief or how can we find out more? Oh, wow, we've had an experience. That's great. Ooh, I'm getting chills. Okay, let's bring a data logger in here. Let's measure the environmental changes. Let's see what this means. Let's ask redundant questions. That just furthers our evidence. You know what I mean? It's one thing you get an EMF blips, on your device, and then it's like, okay, cool. Now, just to be sure, I just want to be clear. Or we're talking to a man here, boom, it goes off, and then you ask control questions. And it's that methodology and sticking to that methodology. Working with him, man, I'm telling you, like when we do establish like contact or we do have some activity, it just gets amped up even more. And his ability to think outside the box. He's like, we've been in places, we got activity. He's like, I have an idea that could like ramp up the activity here to get us to establish more contact. Maybe it'll work. And he'll do something like, I can't give away too much, but there's this one case we had in Indiana where the guy, like, I'm like, how the heck did you think of that? And then on top of that, how did you get it done in such a short amount of time? And on top of that, it friggin' worked. I was like, it's amazing. So being able to think outside of the box and furthering that line of questioning is what's amazing. And that all, again, comes from what Brandon said. It's his heart. It's having that open heart. And that's what makes him, in my opinion, the best in the business. Right on, right on.
Well, speaking of getting all that stuff together and making those things work, it takes a short time to come up with that stuff, although a lot of experience. And speaking of a short amount of time, guys, 60 seconds, that's exactly how long this commercial lasts. I know.
Wonderful.
I'm throwing a commercial at you. But you know what else you can do in 60 seconds or about a minute? You can also do this in a minute. You can get an offer on your car with TrueCar. That's right. In the amount of time it takes to floss your teeth, pet your dog, or do a few sit-ups, or just listen to the sound of my dulcet, prepubescent voice, you can get a true cash offer. That's right. Best of all, you can do it from your smartphone or from your home. You just go to TrueCar and simply enter your license plate number and watch how your car's details pop up. Answer a few questions, or you'll get an accurate true cash offer from a local TrueCar certified dealer. It's that easy. And after that, you can bring your car in and they'll check it out with you together. You can ask questions and get the answers you need, and there's no surprises. Then you just simply leave with your check or trade in your car for a new ride. So when you're ready to experience a better way to sell or trade in your car, you check out TrueCar today. We're back on the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Beyond the Darkness. Brandon Alvis and Mustafa Gatollari from the Ghost Hunters program on A&E are with us. You can check out Ghost Hunters on A&E on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, followed by Psychic Kids at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central Time. Okay, this is the, for us tech geeks, this is the tasty part of the program. This is when we start talking about the little toys, Brandon, that you keep in the closet for the show. You got to give us a little bit of a preview here, man, as to what we're dealing with in the show this year and what little surprises you may spring on us. If you can, talk to us a little bit about what we can look forward to. Now, keep in mind, in the first iteration of Ghost Hunters, they did break out a little thing called a K2 meter, which I did get to see before it ever got onto television. What are some of the things that, are you breaking any tech on this show that maybe people haven't seen before?
Yeah, I mean, we're using a lot of, pieces of tech that are adapted from other industries, which is great. One thing that we really have a strict protocol about with Ghost Hunters and this show is that we are not really using what we refer to as garage tech. We're not using anything that's really been designed specifically for the paranormal. So we're using other pieces of technology. For instance, one piece of technology that we just used on our last case that's really phenomenal and really aids in our investigation is an ambisonic microphone. And a lot of people would know an ambisonic microphone by VR and virtual reality. This is a recording device that actually records in 360 degrees. And what's so great about that device is that now when we're conducting EVP sessions and we're trying to collect these disembodied voices, we can now actually pinpoint where that voice is coming from. It's not just a stereo recording. We can say, hey, this ambisonic microphone was sitting in the middle of this room and this voice came from the far right back corner. And we can really pinpoint where these voices are coming from. We're also using something that's referred to as a binaural microphone, which actually mimics human hearing and kind of gives us superhuman hearing in a sense. So we're really busting out a lot of really cool pieces of technology that are really helping us aid paranormal investigation and aid us collecting data that we can really go further in providing information to the client as far as what's taking place in their place of business, in their home. We're also using a device that we refer to as a data logger. And we're really documenting all of the environmental conditions now associated with hauntings, which has really not been done on this scale before. And it's very exciting because we're in a location all at once. We are recording and monitoring temperature changes, humidity, pressure, EMF all at once. And we're actually able to break that down and graph it out and have a time frame of when events are taking place, how these entities are manifesting, and really breaking it down to a level that no one's ever done before. So it's really exciting. I think everyone's really going to love it. It's being done on a scale that's never been done before, and it's really, really exciting, Tim.
Let me backtrack first with I forgot what you called it with the VR microphone. It's called a...
Ambisonic.
Ambisonic, okay. So with the ambisonic microphone, let me ask you about the logic behind it. So now... You're saying to me, if you set it in the middle of the room and you say something is coming from the left corner of the room, what is the logic behind saying, okay, I'm mapping it coming from that side of the room, as opposed to if I've just got a regular microphone that I'm recording from? Why do you want to know the location of where the voice is coming from? Is there something about the location of a haunting that helps you in one way or another? Walk me through the logic.
Well, that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. We're trying to figure out exactly what these sources are and what exactly we're dealing with. So now having this opportunity to know where in a room these voices are coming from in association to what an eyewitness tells us is really helping us, because not only are we just using this ambisonic microphone and trying to collect these EVPs, we're also documenting the environmental conditions associated with that. So now that we know where this voice is coming from, we can go back to that area and try to get environmental readings associated with that area to see if there's any correlation there, if that makes sense. So we're just trying to break this all down on one timeline, trying to make sure we have as much data as possible to really have an understanding of what the mechanics are, hopefully associated with hauntings and these entities manifesting.
So let me ask you this: with the data logger, are you finding that with the times that you've used it, that there are some atmospheric, how should I put this? That there are some atmospheric conditions that are definitely in common with like hauntings? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, we have definitely been starting to notice a pattern associated with various, phenomena. We just did a case recently where a woman was having severe activity on her staircase, and she kept hearing someone run up and down her staircase over a span of months. And we were able to actually go in and record environmental conditions associated with that, where these sounds that she's hearing are actually taking place constantly, but in a different scenario, in a different type of activity. So we were able to actually document pressure changes that were happening constantly on her staircase in the exact pattern of someone walking up and down that stairs. So we have noticed that there's been a lot of pressure and EMF changes when activity starts to take place. So that's one thing that's really exciting for us, is the fact that we're really now breaking down all of these environmental conditions associated with these events and this phenomena. So we are starting to see a correlating pattern, and we're keeping track of it. And hopefully one day we'll have a better understanding of how all this is taking place.
Wow, that's exciting.
I told you he's sexy when he talks tech.
I know, right? Gosh, I just want to
get a little hot and bothered right now.
I know. I want to curl up and light a fire and listen to him talk all night. Wow. Bearskin rug and getting a little hot and bothered here. That's fascinating. So you've got the data logger, you've got the microphones, and obviously, I mean, cameras come into it. Have you changed up the way you've done the camera work? Or are we still working with IR cams and different cams like that?
Yeah, absolutely. But we've obviously had such an advancement in technology since the original ghost hunters that we're using 4K infrared cameras now, which is unbelievable. And, that's such an asset to us, because in the old days, obviously, not only did you have to use tape, which is ridiculously a burden on an investigation, but right. Now we have such great resolution with the 4K. Say we do collect something anomalous, or we do collect something we can't explain, we can really punch in on that image now, because the resolution is so high that it's really given us such a great advantage. But, we've gone away from the DVR system. We've gone to this 4K cameras that we're using now. It's looking really good. We've had some really great results with them as well. We're using body cameras, very similar to what police use on patrol when they're documenting all of their interactions with people. We have those on us during our investigations, and those are in infrared as well, which is really interesting. And we're actually getting some great results with those. But obviously, we're going to always use the FLIR thermal imaging camera. There's been so many great moments on ghost hunters before where they've had such great results with these thermal imaging cameras. But not only are we using the old models that they used before, but because, again, this advancement in technology, we're using the FLIR 1 models, which actually connect to your smartphone, which is really cool. We're also using trap cameras. A lot of times those are used for viewing wildlife or hunters out in the wild, where we have these trap cameras that are set up through the building that if it's trips, we are getting instant notifications on our phones to say that, yes, something was detected in this area. And that, again, gives us an opportunity to go to that exact area, record those environmental conditions, and hopefully we have a better understanding of the mechanics behind all this taking place.
Now, I do have the question here, Brandon. With the 4K technology, is it eliminating some of that quote-unquote evidence that they might have found in the old days? Do you know what I'm saying? Is there some things that we might have read as paranormal activity that really was just an anomaly on the video?
Absolutely, Tim. I mean, you're thinking back, we think about this whole thing. I mean, when I first started in the field, I was using tape high 8 cameras, you know what I mean? And it was so fuzzy, you know what I mean? There was so much grain associated with those clips. Sometimes the tape would mess up and you would have, tracking and all that. Now with this 4K, it is so crisp and so clear. Anytime you see that dust or that bug or that moisture come into frame, it is so dead obvious to what you're seeing that you don't have that confusion that we had with the previous resolution where there's that grain, that fuzz associated with it where you're like scratching your head saying, man, that I know that this place is dusty, but this just moves in a different manner and it looks different. That's all completely been eliminated.
So we're not completely eliminating orbs with the 4K, are we? I mean, you're still getting orbs per se, but can we eliminate the orb argument completely with 4K, or are we still seeing a dust orb with it?
You can definitely see when dust comes into frame, but, there are different types of anomalous activity, luminous phenomena, which sometimes could be associated with, orbs, that type of, activity. Luminous phenomena is a thing. There's been many times where myself, even I've seen balls of light with my own eyes. So yes, that phenomenon can take place, but it's just a lot easier now with the 4K technology where if there is a luminous type of phenomena, it's going to be way more recognizable than something that can be easily mistaken as that type of phenomena.
Is there a challenge to these new cameras that might come up as paranormal activity for someone who's using them, like on an investigation? Is there a new form of orbs or a new form of balls of light or something that somebody who captures it may say, this is paranormal activity, but really it's just an anomaly on these new 4K cameras?
Yeah, no, it's really great you bring that up. It wouldn't necessarily be anything associated with orbs per se, but there's such great technology in these cameras that you have image stabilization. You have all these different mechanisms that are in this camera where we have noticed when they sit there for 8-9 hours on end, sometimes that image stabilization will kind of start to interact and it will start to think the image is moving and it will move. So you'll think that the camera's actually being shook by something that we can't see or the camera's moving by itself. But when in all reality, it's just the image stabilization, kind of glitching in a way. So, yeah, there are certain, aspects to this technology where there's new technology added that, you really have to sit down and look at the manual and understand what's happening. But we did run into that a few times where we thought the camera was moving by itself when in all reality, it was just the image stabilization that was kicking in.
Interesting.
But it's also cool, too, because we have this new tech, right? And then a lot of manufacturers are more than willing to talk to you. And sometimes we find things with the new tech and we're like, okay, what is this? So like we had a thermal imaging camera, we had a FLIR, and it's this really cool small FLIR camera. We had it attached to, an iPhone. We had it pointed at this one place in a building where people said that there was like paranormal claims. And then there was this shock of just white light out of nowhere on there. And Brandon went and hit up, he knew somebody at the FLIR Imaging Center, and they said, this is somebody who eats, lives, breathes, sleeps, and will probably die FLIR. And Brandon spoke with him. The guy couldn't explain it. So it's like when you have more questions than answers, that's really exciting. So, it's not always just like, oh yeah, this is just like, a quirk of the tech. It's actually, no, we've never seen that before, and it just so happens to be consistent with an area where people had claims, and man, that's beautiful.
And that's the beauty, again, about the fact that we're using these devices that, one, not only are reliable, but they're not built for the purpose of paranormal investigation. We can go to a manufacturer and we can say, hey, we captured something we believe to be anomalous or something we can't explain. You're an expert in this. You built these devices. What is this? And that's something that really provides an edge for us, especially when it comes to data collection and having an understanding of what's going on, is the fact that we can say, hey, here's the manufacturer. These are the people that built it. Can you tell us what this is? And that's just such a great thing that we have and why we use that type of technology.
And when
it also just keeps us honest, keeps us totally honest. They don't have a vested interest in finding a ghost, but a company that does, produce devices that are meant for finding ghosts, you're like, what is this? They're going to be like, oh, that's a ghost, bro. And it's like, okay, well, I know you want me to tell me that because you created the device to help us find ghosts.
Well, what does somebody like FLIR say when you tell them we've got this white spot sitting here and we're trying to figure out on a temperature spectrum what it means? What possible answers do they give you for something like that?
That's for Brandon, man. He talked to them.
So yeah, I mean, lucky enough, I was speaking with someone who's a PhD that has worked with FLIR a long time, and he could just tell us that he doesn't believe it to be a glitch. He doesn't believe it to be something associated with the camera malfunctioning, but he doesn't know what it is. And again, that's, like Mustafa said earlier, that's giving us more questions than answers, which is exciting in a way. But he's not going to go out on a limb and say it is a ghost, but he definitely could say that from his years of experience of building FLIR technology and developing FLIR technology, that he did not have an answer from a natural standpoint as to what it was.
Well, that's got to send some chills up your spine and get you a little revved up, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's actually even more satisfying in that way because, like I said, no vested interest. I mean, Grant even said it, like he's been doing this for so long, but he says there's really nobody who's can like legitimately say, oh, I'm an expert in this field, just because there's still so much more work to do in it.
It gets me a little fired up too when you think about, well, I think I found something, but what did I find? And then you're, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. And then you start trying to break down what it is you did find and what it exactly means. And then you try to put it in a context, but then you put it on television and you've got everybody at home trying to dissect what it is you found. So I want to transition into this next question. You put something like that on television, and I'm sure you guys are going to get plenty of this in the coming weeks. And I know, Brandon, you've dealt with this as well when you put something either on a website or on social media and everyone dissects it. At that point, everybody and their mother is a paranormal expert, and they start dissecting what it is you put up, and they don't have the context of the investigation that you've been on and the evidence you've collected. And at that point, is there a level of frustration because you've come to an educated guess as to what it is that you've come up with, and these people have no context as to what it is you've come to, the conclusion you've come to? Speak to it first, Brandon, about what that feeling is that you have at that point, or do you have to disconnect from yourself and just say, you know what? I just put it out there based on the evidence that was in front of me. I have to let it go. Or do you get emotionally invested?
Well, there's always going to be armchair experts, especially with the invention of the internet. It's always going to be something that exists. But I try not to get too emotionally invested with the data that we collect and what it is, because all we can do is exhaust all of our resources and our knowledge base and say, hey, look, we meticulously went through this. We had it analyzed. We came to this conclusion. Here it is for everyone to see. And at that point, it's really all we can do because we have exhausted all of our resources, which we do every case. I mean, we are meticulous when it comes to going through all of our analysis. If we have something we believe it to be unexplainable, we go the extra length to make sure that it remains that way. So if someone's out there, they don't agree with it, they don't think it's something supernatural or something paranormal, that's their opinion. But I would just say, before you make that conclusion and jump to that conclusion, just make sure you know what you're talking about, you've done the research, and that you have an understanding of how we went about collecting this data and what that data means.
Mustafa, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Mustafa, I was going to say, if you go into an investigation with an open heart and you put your heart into it, does your heart get broken when people start dissecting your evidence?
No, I don't. I don't really care so much what people think. It's like, if I start caring a lot about what people think, I mean, I grew up with the name Mustafa Gatollari in a town full of people whose last name were Smith and Johnson and stuff like that, and they all thought it was weird just because my name's Mustafa. And it's like, listen, man, I eat peanut butter and jelly and watch Saturday morning cartoons just like you. And it's like, I had to learn to stop caring about that very, very early on. Otherwise, I'm just going to be a dancing monkey for people just to gain their acceptance. So for me, I can only go into an investigation with a standard that I set for myself. Remember that FLIR thing we were just talking about? That's not going to be in the show just because it's like, okay, it's evidence and it's interesting, but we have all this other evidence. I mean, there's phenomenon that have occurred in episodes that is, I believe, to be paranormal, but we all sit around and it's like for one example, in one episode, I was walking at the same time that there were creaks being heard at the other side of the room. The creaks weren't caused by me, and I could prove that the creaks weren't caused by me by other equipment, but it looks like they were. We didn't put it in the show.
Okay.
There was a light fixture moving out of nowhere, and that happened. Everyone in the room, there was 5 people in the room who saw that happen, move by itself. We didn't put it in the show just because the way it was captured on camera didn't translate that way. So a lot of times we throw out legitimate evidence and don't put it in the final cut because it appears to be kind of dubious. So we're like going not even the extra mile. We're going the extra 100 miles to make sure that everything that we're presenting is like nobody can really say anything about it. But of course, people are going to say stuff. Oh, this is CGI. Oh, this is Photoshop. Oh, this is that. It's like, okay, man, that's cool. You know, continue, you know, commenting on celebrities' pages online and like eating Cheetos and living out like whatever, like, you know, basement fantasy that you have. But for us, it's like, you know, we're like Brandon said, we're literally killing ourselves every single investigation. And the whole thesis of this show is to present the most integral evidence possible. Integrity is the first thing that we have. So, you know, it's like Kurt Angle, man, integrity, intensity, and intelligence. And
I love it. You just made a wrestling reference. I love you, Mustafa. I really do. Oh, man. Especially since we've worked with Chris Jericho. So there you go.
Actually, I love him. I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
And actually, I'm sure Chris would love to talk to you guys too. You know, we can hook you up. Actually,
I'll be in your debt forever.
We started. We'll make that happen. Then we'll make that happen because we started off this podcast, Beyond the Darkness, on the Jericho Network. So there you go. I'm telling you, we can make this happen, my friend. You actually bring up a good point, and I want to transition to this part of the discussion, and that has to do with people sitting at home and in this day and age of technology. A lot of people, and this shot gets fired across the bow with your neighbors over at Ghost Adventures on the Travel Channel, and a lot of different paranormal programs. You get the, that had to be faked. Oh, that had to be this. Or, you know, producers on a paranormal program, of course, they're going to do whatever they can to get results. So, you know, something has to be faked. So and you just spoke to it, Mustafa, so I'm going to throw this at Brandon. What, in your opinion, in the short time that you guys have been working on the show, what has to be done in order to maintain integrity on a show? In your opinion, or what have you seen Pilgrim Films or Grant or even as cast members, what have you done to maintain the integrity of the show so that there isn't something done to damage the integrity of the show?
Well, you know, first and foremost, Pilgrim and A&E has done such a great job at finding or having these cases presented to us that are just phenomenal. I mean, again, it's always first and foremost, the number one basis for this show is to help the client, and it's always based off of a call for help. And these people are genuinely afraid and genuinely terrified. And there's absolutely no reason for us to go into these locations, again, these people's homes, these people's places of business, and to fake anything, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I'll say this first and foremost, I never would have been involved in this show if I thought that there was going to be anything of that sort. And it's been a great experience working with Grant Wilson as he's executive producer on this. And as you know, Tim, what passion he has for the paranormal, what an understanding he has for it. But again, it's all about the fact that we have these cases, we have these people, and it's all based on that. There's no reason for us to sensationalize or go out there and fake anything when you have people that are genuinely, truly afraid of these situations that they're living in on a day-to-day basis. So going in there and us just naturally figuring out what's going on and how we can help them is, number one, what it's all about, but number two, very entertaining for the fact that people are along for that ride and being able to watch that with us every week.
I know Brandon, you as a seasoned investigator, and Mustafa, I'm not quite up on your background. I don't know how seasoned you are as an investigator. You come upon a point as you get into further seasons of filming where I think if you talk to any of the people who have been investigating for a long, long time, they get a little jaded as to when they get into different cases, and it's kind of like another day at the office when they get into certain situations. And then as things escalate with certain cases and things get more and more dangerous, you still get to the point where you kind of want to leave a little brown stuff in your shorts. I'm
not spilling my coffee. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, poop. Yes.
Right. I would ask you this: have you guys run across anything so far in any of the episodes that you filmed that has left you a little unnerved? And I want to start with you, Mustafa. Have you had anything yet that's left you a little unnerved?
Yeah, but like unnerved, not necessarily in a bad way. I mean, okay. One of our first cases, I got really, Brandon and I, we were in a gymnasium, mm-hmm. and there was reports, and again, I thought it was a report. Kids in school, they always like trump up these stories about like, oh, there was somebody here, and lo and behold, like Brandon and I start hearing noises exactly from the area where these children said that they saw somebody. And I go to that area, and I start hearing footsteps near me, and then all of a sudden I feel like an electric surge, come up my leg and through my body, and I feel like someone's holding me, and I feel like someone's hugging me, and I became overwhelmed emotionally. Like I was crying, and it wasn't a sad cry. It wasn't like, oh, like I'm like I want to get out of here. I want my mommy, even though I love my mom. Mm-hmm. But like it was a very kind of warm feeling, and that was great. And then there's been other times where like we've encountered entities being a little aggressive, but it wasn't aggressive to the point where like you felt like your life was in danger. It's just like this one particular case. It's like what we discovered were there were people going over there and kind of like superimposing like an evil narrative, and it felt like the entities were just fed up, and they just wanted us out because they were conflating us with other people who have come in there and maybe did some stuff that were disrespectful, especially given the nature of the building and what the people went through there. So when we were on night 2 in the investigation, we had activity, but it wasn't like aggressive or standoffish or anything like that. So yeah, there are things that happen that make you go like, what? But because we're all of the same mind of finding answers, like, I could see like a headless person. I feel like there's been times where we've been sitting there, we've been getting like activity, and I legitimately think I'm going to see someone in front of me right now. That's scary, but holy crap, my first question would be like, okay, so like, what are you doing here? What's going on? Why are you here? Is there something that happened? Is there something that you want to tell us? And that's the mind that we're in. We're like a dog with a bone, man. Like we smell something and we just want to get that answer.
Right on. Brandon, anything that's, and I know you've been in this game a long time, my friend, anything that's unnerved you so far during filming?
I wouldn't say unnerved, so much, but we actually just worked a case last week. That's going to be a fantastic episode. It could possibly be the best one that we've had yet. But where we were in a situation where we were interacting with an entity, and there was such a clear and present understanding of this entity knowing how to interact with us through the equipment, that was just such a phenomenal moment for me. I mean, 13 years I've been doing this. I've yet to encounter what we did last week. So it was unnerving, phenomenal, I would say, and I cannot wait for everyone to see it. We had such a correlation between 2 different devices and cooperation with this entity that it's just mind-blowing. And I even just to see Grant's face when we showed him after the analysis what our findings were was unbelievable, and I just cannot wait for everyone to see it. But that's a moment that at this point in time really sticks out for me, and I'm just so excited for everyone to see it.
Yeah, best investigation I've ever been on, man.
All right. So last question of this show for both of you, and because this is kind of a good place to leave it, I think, for now, because we've already given quite a bit away about the new show and the new season. I don't want to give too much away about the new season because I want people to see it for themselves. And it is looking very, very good. This show does look very good. And again, Ghost Hunters, you can check it out on A&E Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Psychic Kids is on, the new version of Psychic Kids is on right afterwards at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central on A&E. So here's the question, and I want to start with you, Mustafa. If you had to describe the personality of this version of Ghost Hunters, the personality of this show, how would you describe it?
Genuine and heartfelt and caring. That's it sounds like very Care Bearish and very like nice, but like when I think it only really heightens the spookiness when we focus so much on like the humanity too. If people are tuning in looking for something spooky, you're gonna get it, but the care that's there and the level of concern for both the client and the entity, and taking those serious fears and those serious concerns very, very seriously in that way is it really, really gives the show a ton of heart.
Okay. Brandon, how would you describe the personality of Ghost Hunters?
Oh, man, I would definitely say, integrity, heart, and helpful. Not only helpful to see the way we handle these clients and the help that we provide to them, but it's also helpful for the paranormal field, a field that we all love so much and hold so dear to our own hearts, that it's such a breath of fresh air to see that next step being taken, how to take all this data that we're collecting, how we're helping these clients, and how that's expanding the paranormal field, man. So I'm just so excited to be part of this show and so grateful to be working with Grant Wilson and Mustafa and the rest of the team, that it's just, man, sometimes I have to pinch myself just to make sure this is all real.
Right on.
I'll pinch you right now.
Wow, it's a pinch fest. It's a pinch war. Guys, we're looking forward to not only this season, but many more seasons to come. The show looks phenomenal. Even the update to the look of the show and the feel of the show, it looks absolutely phenomenal. We're looking forward to it. Brandon Alvis, Mustafa Gatollari, thank you both for being with us today. It was our honor. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, man. I love it. We can't wait to come back.
Thanks, Tim. Always a pleasure speaking with you, man.
And we're going to set up that date with Chris Jericho for Talk is Jericho, because you guys got to.
Oh my God!
You guys got to talk to Chris. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Don't thank me. Thank Chris. We'll get that hooked up as well, folks. That'll do it for today for our show. Again, download the Darkness Radio app for iPhone. It's on the App Store right now. Just type in Darkness Radio in the search app, and all things Beyond the Darkness, all things for True Crime Tuesday, Midnight in the Desert. It's all there. Go get the Darkness Radio app on the App Store at iOS or iPhone right now. We're out at Michigan Paracon. Come see us. We're out there right now. Also check out darknessevents.com for where we'll be around the country and around the world, where you can come see us. Check that out as well. We'll be back next weekend with supernatural news and Parish Share, and of course more great guests. For Dave Schrader, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you for listening to the best in paranormal talk radio. This has been Beyond the Darkness.